A few minutes. Are we ready, Sandra? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Leon Valley City Council meeting. Today's Tuesday, July 16, 2019, and it's at approximately 4 minutes after 6, and I'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. All council members are present. Our city manager is out of town and on vacation for the birth of her first grandchild and will not be here today, although will she be here for Skype? I couldn't remember. No, she will not be here. The next meeting. Okay, very good. So, would you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll begin. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, many of you all know just our little brief housekeeping rules. If you could please silence your cell phones. And if you want to talk to your neighbor, if you could please go outside into the foyer. And just please refrain from any outburst. I know it's sometimes we get passionate. So, yes, and silence your cell phones. Okay, our local rules do allow for our citizen input at any point during our agenda, not just for citizens to be heard. If you'll please wait until staff presentation, council discussion, and if you would like to add something, just raise your hand. I'll be more than happy to call on you. All right, I believe that's it. So let's begin under agenda item number 2, presentations. Number 1, both our fire chief and our assistant fire chief are out on a call. So we're going to have to be very, very flexible. And when they get back, we will administer the oath of office to both of those gentlemen. So moving then to agenda item number 2. But before I do that, Ms. Postleigh did come to me, and I think I'll go ahead and ask the council. Mr. Milan has requested that agenda item 8.4 be moved up first under the regular agenda item before 8.1 because we will have our guest here. And I wanted to be sure that that was okay with the council.
I thought it was after 1.
Is it after or before? I thought it was first. Mr. Milan, could you clarify that, please? I thought it was first.
Be moved up to 8.1.
Yes, that's right. So that would be the first agenda item.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that amenable to all of the counselors? Mm-hmm. All right, so then we will do that so that you could tell your guest. Okay, very good. So moving back to presentation number 2, presentation of the monthly financial report ending June 30th, 2019. We have Ashley Wayman, our Assistant Finance Director, here this evening to present. Good evening and welcome.
This better? Oh, good. Okay.
That's much better.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
All right. Tonight we'll be going over the financial report through the month of June. Starting with our general fund, sales taxes were up this month about 3.26%, trending pretty well. We also already have July's numbers, and we were up 2.95%, so looking pretty good in our sales taxes. Our ad valorem is trending. It's higher than it was last year at this time, almost there percentage-wise. Other than that, our expenditures all seem to be on track in this fund. If there's any specific questions y'all have about any numbers.
All right. Are there any questions for the general fund revenue this evening from the council? All right. I think you've gone through and explained to us that the red light cameras and the impound lots is the revenues in the license permits, fees, and fines, and that's why that's such a high number.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And yeah, those make up a very large chunk of that number. And you'll see those later. We had those two broken down.
And will our franchise fees this fiscal year be impacted by the legislation, or it'll just be next year?
I believe it's next year. Yeah, I don't
Next
think
year,
it
okay,
takes
because we
effect.
talked about that last meeting
Right.
for the budget and just came to my mind.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we will take a little hit
All right.
there. Moving on to our water and sewer fund. Water sales are up right now from where they were last year at this time, and likely if it continues to be a pretty dry year, we'll probably see those numbers continue to rise. So our water sales are looking good, even though we also want everyone to conserve. So kind of one of those both sides there. Other than that, all of our revenues seem to be coming in well in this department. We are pretty high on our tapping fees just from all the new development that's been going on, so that's good news. And our miscellaneous is up as well, just more customer penalties, things like that, just late fees, kind of that sort of thing. It just happens to be trending a little high this year. But other than that, our expenditures are on track as well.
All right.
In our community center fund, the hotel and motel taxes have not changed since last month. You'll see those next month. Those are quarterly, so those should all be in hopefully by the July report for you guys. Our community and conference center rentals, though taking out the church numbers, they may not look quite as good, but they are trending at 75% and 85%. Respectively, so they're actually on track even without the church rentals that we had in there. So those are looking good right now, and our expenditures are on track.
This kind of just jumped out at me when I was reviewing it this afternoon. So we have revenue of 145.4, but our expenditures are 202,531. So it's over what we bring in. So how will we cover that?
There's a fund, there is a fund balance.
Okay, and we
the
just don't see
community
the
center
fund balance here.
Right.
Okay, so we have a fund balance that will cover that expense, so it'll be covered.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. And it is
We will-
something that we hope, as we are able to fix up the centers a little bit, maybe our rentals can hop back in and take over more of that. But as of now, that's what we have.
Okay,
right now.
and approximately how much is the fund balance in this community center fund? I'm just, because we're about, 55, 60,000
Mayor and Council,
short.
it's around, we estimate at the end of the fiscal year 19 is going to be 80,000, but by the time we get to next year, it's zeroed out.
Oh, so this
So
will be
if
the
you
last
remember,
year.
what we did with that is we paid off the tax anticipation notes that we issued to build that conference center, and that ate away a huge portion of that fund balance.
So this year we'll be able to cover this.
Yeah,
with
next
the
year we're
fund,
going to
but
have
next
to watch
year-
it really, really close.
Okay,
Yeah, we're watching it close this year,
Yeah.
but next year we are showing in your budget document a zero fund balance,
okay,
because she's going to do some upgrades to the center.
okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out.
All right. Our economic and community development, again, part of the general fund, but it's just broken down here so you can see it separated out. Sales tax is about the same as it is in the general fund, 2 months behind, up 3.26%. So we're looking good there. Our expenditures seem to be tracking well. And you'll notice we do show the litigation reserve in there now, but we still have not received the $79,125 deposit extra. So we're still waiting on that. As far as also, I know you,
Okay.
Denise. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Mayor and Council, I've contacted them on a weekly basis, 2 or 3 times a week. I don't get any response, so I don't know what else to do. I've contacted them by email and phone, so, I just keep being told it's being processed.
Okay, and that's the district clerk's office,
Yes.
correct? Right, okay, thank you.
And then coming out of that contractual, we do have our ED project funding in there. There is one new item from this month, and it was the UTSA Public Administration. I believe that was for their
T-shirts?
TCMA conference T-shirts. Yeah, I think something relating to them. And then we still have the office furniture liquidations in there and Amiga Cafe, and there will be more coming next month that we've already kind of started.
Okay, but we've actually only spent $13,118 for the fiscal year?
We spent $11,151 in ED project funding. It just
Okay.
comes out of contractual.
Okay, right. But we budgeted $213,138, so we still have quite a bit that we could spend on
Right, yeah.
projects.
Basically kind of whatever's left at the end is all pretty much devoted to
Okay.
projects.
Very good, thank you.
Our red light cameras for the month of June are Tier 1, which is what we account for and report to the state. Everything seems to be on track in that fund. Our contractual does include 9 payments to our vendor, ATS. Our revenues are, above where we had budgeted, so those are looking good. We just do need to keep in mind that that's not necessarily money we keep. It's used for the administration of the program and then split with the state in Tier 2. Other than that, our expenditures in Tier 2 are also on track, if there's any other questions.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any questions from the council on the red light camera fund? All right.
And our impound lot, not a whole big story to tell here. Our fees and auctions are running about at budget right now. Auctions are closer to budget. And our expenditures are all on track in this fund, so.
So how many more auctions do we have this fiscal year? Because
think we
that number will go up then, right?
It
on
will.
the budget?
I know we have one
on the
more
actual.
coming up very soon.
Just one more for this fiscal year?
Trying 1 or 2.
Every other month, so we have about 4 months left, right?
Right.
So 3 months,
So
July, August.
1,
Okay.
maybe 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so that may go over what we've budgeted, but,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah,
right.
likely.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
All right, and just a reminder that this and other reports can be found on our website, financial transparency, and then you can see all the reports.
Excellent, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
And then, are there any questions from our citizens? If you'll please come to the podium and state your name and just where you live, Leon Valley, San Antonio, Helotes, just a general, that would be great. Yes, ma'am.
Last week.
And your name is Johnny?
Sorry.
That's
just
okay.
Tell me. Johnny Garrett,
Okay.
Leon
Garrett.
Valley.
Okay, very good.
I thought last meeting we had a financial report, and I had questions from that, and I wanted to ask. When she read it off, I thought she meant 1,200, 12,500, but it's 12,500 for a light table for the city plans. What
Oh,
size
that's the
is that?
budget. Yeah, that's the budget.
Well, the budget for the light table?
Yeah, that's for next year's budget that we talked about. I believe the fire department and the community department, we're both going to get this table that they could put their plans on for 12.5.
But that's
So,
for one table?
yes, go right ahead.
Electronic, so they can actually send plans to and from people who need to review it. It's not a table, it's a big, it's a device, it's a screen.
Okay.
It's interactive.
Oh,
I think,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds nice, but is Leon Valley that big? I mean, that's something like Dallas or Houston would use, I would think.
Yeah.
Does Leon Valley need something like that?
Well, the departments usually express their needs, and so then we will consider them. And so
Okay.
we
Well,
haven't,
it's your budget. And also,
no,
I had
it's our
another
budget.
thing on the budget, and it's a small thing, but everybody has a budget, and if you cut unnecessary things, the last, on this charter book, and I talked to Denise about this, the last 26 pages are in Spanish. Does Leon Valley have non-English speaking residents here? Very certainly. How many
so.
residents do we have in Leon Valley that read English? I mean, I'm talking about if we need 5 or 6 copies in Spanish and they get a copy in English for Spanish, contact our office or something. But I don't know what these things cost to mail out and print. For how many residents do we have in Leon Valley? Somebody ought to know.
Yeah, I just know our population number, but is it about 3,000 homes?
It's the registered voters that receive, each registered voter.
Oh, so that's going to be 7,500. No, that's 7,500.
Yeah, it's whatever I don't
Yeah.
know the numbers for registered voters.
Each registered voter got a copy. So if I have,
Two, because they have 2 registered voters in their
Okay.
but the law, if I remember, and Denise, can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the charter goes out to every registered voter. So some homes got 2, some got 1.
So what if they're not registered? They wouldn't get that book? Is that,
Correct. But we make it available online.
okay.
We
didn't even know that.
post it everywhere. But again, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Denise, if I
Well,
remember correctly.
it's supposed to go out to all the citizens of the city.
Okay.
So that's what the election code says, that, I mean, or not the election code, but the local government code said that it's
It went out.
supposed to go out to all the citizens in the city of Leon Valley. So it doesn't specify whether they're registered voters or
Okay.
not.
So maybe I'm mistaken and it got sent out to everybody who would have voted.
We can get that clarified for you,
Okay,
for
but
sure.
it does not have to be printed in Spanish.
I believe it does.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
I
thought it did.
I called Denise
Okay.
today, and I asked
Oh.
for a House bill or a Senate
Okay.
bill or the legislation
Good to know.
session. And did you get to that today?
Well, I looked it up, and there's no requirement that the charter itself be in English and Spanish. It just needs to be sent out to all the residents of the city of Leon Valley. But what happened is that the former city attorney, Charlie Zeck, gave instructions to send out the charter that they had created in 2014 to be sent out in English and Spanish, and so that was just carried through, from what I understand. So, no, it's not required, but I'm sure it's just a courtesy to the citizens that don't speak English.
I don't have any problem with that, but we could print on it if it went to their resident, if they're a registered voter, you know, send it to them. If you need it in Spanish, contact us. To print all those copies and mail them, the postage on them. It
It's
adds
very
up.
expensive,
You know, I
yeah.
have to watch my budget, and I'm
Okay.
sure y'all should. And that's something that should be done.
All
And
right.
if y'all
Thank
wanna
you
do
so much. I
right, then-
appreciate that. And we'll be talking more about that budget item in
Thank
the
you.
August 6th meeting when we take up the budget again. Thank you, Ms. Garrett. Yes, Mr. Riddle, good evening and welcome. How are you this evening? Good, good. Is it on? Yes, that's right. We do need to, this is not citizens to be heard yet. This is just on
Yeah.
what you just heard on our finance. So if
Oh,
you have a
okay.
question for
Well,
that.
yeah, I was Philip Riddle, and I'm on Rusopi. I just had as far as the city employee pension, is it fully funded normally through the year?
Now that I don't, Vicki, you're going to have to help us out here. I know we've got it in, we
Yes,
We put it-
our pension fund, which is through Texas Municipal Retirement System, is funded for a full year. The rate changes January 1st of every year.
right. Yes, you sure? Yes,
I'm sorry,
Ms. Frederick.
sorry, Mayor and Council, I do have a correction. It is to the registered voters, not to all the citizens. Thank you, Crystal, sorry.
Okay. Interesting. All right, thank you all very much. Any other questions on the finance report this evening? All right, well then let's move on then to agenda item number 2.3, receive a presentation and provide feedback regarding a potential mixed-use development on approximately 3 acres, generally located at 6758 Post Road. And Mr. Smith, good evening and welcome. Our chairman of our zoning commission.
Mayor, Council, good evening. David Smith, Chairman of the Zoning Commission. Like you said, I'm very excited this evening to bring this item to you. Apologize, I just got off work, so I have my notes so I can remember everything here. The purpose of this item is essentially to introduce you, City Council, to a potential future residential development on a 3-acre undeveloped tract of land. This tract is at 6758 Post Road. As many people may affectionately remember that as the town center area, which I think we all can agree is kind of a dirty word now. So I like to refer to this as that spot behind the car wash. So, and this is kind of, for those who don't know, basically at the corner of Post Road, Grissom Road, and Bandera Road. There's that kind of big empty spot back there, okay? So essentially, the developers, Mr. Shehadi, is here this evening to talk. He came a few weeks ago and a few months ago now, and presented at a zoning commission to get our initial feedback. It was a fantastic presentation that he'll be presenting to you tonight. You know, several options that they presented to us, but in a nutshell, the two that it kind of boiled down to was a townhouse development option, or we kind of lean towards was a high-density, multi-family mixed-use development, very similar to what's kind of being developed around the Pearl area or UTSA area has a lot of that going on. Broadway is being kind of redeveloped that way. You know, it was very favorable feedback was received from the zoning commission, I believe. And so now what we've done is we've asked Mr. Shihada to come back, kind of give an initial presentation to you, City Council. You know, we have not formally voted on this in the zoning. It's more of just let's talk about what some options are, what we can do, what are some good ideas for this property, and how we can improve our city even further. So without that further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Shihadi. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Shahadi, and welcome.
Evening. Thank you, David. Thanks for the introduction. Very kind. All right. Well, first of all, thank you all very much for hosting us tonight. There were supposed to be two of us. Unfortunately, my business partner of 28 years, we have currently a project in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have a closing of a large transaction that's supposed to happen tomorrow. So he sends his apologies for not being here. He was here for the commission meeting, and he's a long-term friend, long-term partner. We're doing a lot of projects together, and we're very excited to present to you some ideas about what we're thinking for this particular property. We did not come forward with your typical approach as a developer. We believe in a joint thinking session whereby we come in with some ideas and then we solicit help from you based on your vision for this community. So we're always reaching out to the community that we're wanting to develop in and find that middle ground that fits with our objectives, but more importantly, the municipal objectives for this particular area. So I would like to give you a little bit of perspective as to who we are. We're a small group. We're not a huge developer. I'm an engineer by education, and Azim, my business partner, he's out of Toronto. I'm out of Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. We're both Canadian.
Okay.
And yes, what are we doing here in Leon Valley? That's a very good question. I have a love relationship with Texas. I've had place in Texas for many, many years. Started with business ventures in Dallas and close friendships here in San Antonio. So that brought me here often, and I developed a liking for the city. So about 5 years ago, as we were looking at diversification out of the Canadian market and capitalizing on the U.S. dollar strength at that point in time, we wanted to move some money down to the U.S., and was the best thing we've done because our dollar ended up losing quite a bit of money against the currency has lost quite a bit against the U.S. dollar. This is relevant because that's how the money came down, and that's how we bought quite a few properties across the U.S. So one of them is this particular property, and we bought it with a vision. We did a lot of research, as we usually do before we buy. And I will go over this presentation really quickly to tell you a little bit about who we are, but also why San Antonio, and share with you some of the market research that we have conducted and some of our target demographics. So in terms of who we are, we're experienced. We've done a lot of projects. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, could we lower the lights so we could see it a little bit better? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I actually can't see that because I'm colorblind and I have terrible vision.
Okay.
So
No, that's a lot better.
so
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna just fly by. We'll see how that goes. Okay. So that's why I have this thing here. So I apologize if I'm looking down as we're going through this. So so we've done quite a few projects across Canada and in the United States. This is a project here that's currently underway. We're about 2 months from finishing the construction for this project. We have 17 high-end townhouses that we're developing right downtown Raleigh. They're approximately 2,800 to 4,400 square feet each. They're very large. Each one of them is about 4-story. Here you see 3 stories, but there's one in the back of this particular building. There are 2 buildings behind this, each one with about 5 to 6 units. Each one has an elevator in it, super high-end, and it was destined for professionals in that particular market. We've sold 8 out of the, 9, and we have 8 left. So we're pretty much done with this, and we're excited about our next project, which is here in Leon Valley. If we get the pleasure of getting your nod as to how we proceed from here. So second project is a project we've done in Toronto a few years back. So that's also right downtown Toronto. We did a couple other townhouse projects in Toronto. I didn't include any pictures. This presentation is the exact same presentation we gave to the commission. We did not want to change anything in it, even though we had some enhancements to it. We decided just to keep it whole so that we keep the integrity of the message. The next project here is an upcoming project. We bought 2,000 acres of land in Alberta, just adjacent to a lake about an hour southeast of the city of Calgary. It's a little bit irrelevant. This is a lot of farmland. We bought about 4 different farmers, and our first phase is 432 lots with a golf course, and we have enough water rights for 1,600 homes in that area. So that's a little bit about some of who we are. If you don't mind, the next slide, please. Thank you. Why San Antonio? We have predicted big growth based on a lot of conversations we've had as to which areas we wanted to pick to invest in back in 2014. Some of our predictions came to light, and we're very happy with that. San Antonio, New Braunfels corridor is the second fastest growing corridor in the U.S. in terms of development. So we were looking at also the income level in that area, and we started thinking in terms of what kind of product could we potentially bring that would fit within those parameters, right? Next slide, please. So we've conducted market research, and that came out with the following results. Our target market would be ideally professional single parents with 1 or more children, over or around $70,000 in annual income, or professional couples with no children. The purchase price, if we were to go down the path of a townhouse concept or any kind of a condo concept, would be around $250,000 to $300,000. We will show you a little bit later as to why this particular price point. If we were to go down the path of a rental property, we expect about $1.3 to $1.6 per square foot. One of the biggest attractions of this particular area to us is the proximity to the medical center. We believe this is a very underdeveloped area, considering the proximity to the medical center. So our hope is that would be one of the first pioneers developing a project and hopefully continue on with more developments as we test this particular product in this particular market and geography. So there's a big concentration of medical professionals right next door. We want to tap into that. Professionals are becoming more trendy, as you see what's going on downtown. That's actually a trend not only common to San Antonio, but we've seen it in Austin, we've seen it in Houston, we've seen it in Dallas, we've seen it in Raleigh, North Carolina, and all across the U.S. So we want to just leverage that, and if we can start a little bit of a movement here in Leon Valley that capitalizes on the neighbors next door and give them a product that they would be excited about, then we're on the right track, in our very humble opinion. And we need your validation, of course, if we're on the right track or not with that. So some data about the medical community. If you were to look at a registered nurse in San Antonio, the salary is about $70,000 average. If you look at the banking industry and how much they would lend you, if you're making $70,000, you'll be looking at about $275,000 property. That's the qualification. So as we're looking at analyzing our market, we always look at affordability. And we believe by developing a product that is affordable yet trendy, we should be able to capture some very good interest. You're familiar with this property. I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but when we bought this property, we went through an analysis process, and I just wanted to show you the analysis process right here. So we looked at the proximity to the medical center. We looked at how much land is available potentially for us to expand if this works, which we hope it does, with your help and in partnership with the city, so that there's a lot of land close by. And we looked at that vision of a town center, and we thought maybe it would be one of the catalysts for something like this to happen. Maybe it would be like that first step. It's been stalling for a long time. So basically, great access, as long as it's not in peak hours. We're very familiar with traffic issues. So I lived in San Antonio, just so you know, for 3 years. We conducted business in San Antonio, so I'm very familiar with this corridor. I drove it many, many times. So, and I also understand that there would probably be questions around traffic impact. And what I wanted to tell you in anticipation of that question, that we've done a little bit of research on that corridor and the traffic there. And it seems that 93% of the traffic going through this corridor originates outside Leon Valley and ends outside Leon Valley. So very little impact is happening from the Leon Valley community on that particular corridor. So we were thinking, we're struggling a little bit with how we would assess that in advance as we're looking at feasibility for this project. Because our impact is going to be absolutely minute compared to what's going on around us. But this is something we can discuss together, and we're open to ideas as to what we can do to make this any concept we're proposing is a concept that allows for future, is futuristic friendly, is what we want to say. Because if we want to move down to a transit strategy that maybe the city of San Antonio implements, we want to develop a community that is ready for that. Okay? So, so that's basically, that's again the same. If we can move on to the next one, please. This is also something that was attractive as we looked at the ordinance for the city. We saw that we were inside the overlay zone, and inside the overlay zone, we basically are allowed by right to develop townhouses and lofts. But this will only work if we were to work together with City Council and with the community to make sure that we have a project that fits exactly within the vision. And we don't want to deviate from that. Right, next, please. Let's skip that, please. Next. Okay, so what's our goal? Our goal is to provide a little bit of a differentiated living experience. So if we were to design something that is stylish, with common social areas, something that encourages active lifestyle, and again, to provide a product that is in harmony with the neighborhood. Next, please. So we came down to a couple of concepts that we wanted to present to you for your feedback. One is the concept of apartments, rentals, and honestly, you'll have to tell us what you believe your needs are for this community. What does the community need? Would the community need apartment style accommodations? The other one is townhouses and lofts. So this would be something that we're looking at with, as we look at the next slide, please. We'll be looking at about 112,000 total square feet of living spaces. About 67 residential units, averaging about 1,600 square feet. Average price about $275K. We'll be looking at a little bit of a gated community. We don't know what your appetite is for that. So if you tell us, hey, yay, nay, we'll evaluate with you what's the best approach. We'll have a private road, one main one going through it, and a whole bunch of alleys, where effectively you park your vehicle in the back, and you have that promenade in the middle in each building. That's your access, and that's your front porch. On top, we're looking at rooftop patios across the board for each unit. We'll have a jogging track. We'll have a common area on the right there that is green, a little bit of a pond, area. Retention pond serves purpose as well in terms of stormwater. And we're expecting a density of about 3 people per unit. So that adds about 200 new residents to your tax base. The next one, when it comes to rental apartment concept, we have evaluated a couple options. This option here, really high density, 162 units, will require substantial lenience on parking, right? So otherwise we would have to build a concrete structure for it that becomes extremely expensive. So, however, we can vary this a little bit and go with a little bit of a lower number of units, potentially around 100 to 110, whereby we can use surface parking quite effectively. So we just need to work with you and your Department of Planning, Brandon, and the Commission to make sure that whatever we end up designing there will fit within budget as well as within the vision. So a whole bunch of statistics there. I'm not sure if you have a copy in front of you. You're welcome to ask any questions on that. If you don't mind moving next slide, please. It would look like this. It's trendy. This is actually based on a conversation we've had with Brandon and his team. And as we're looking at concepts, we came up with this concept jointly that actually Brandon ended up drawing and with some of the vision for the city moving forward. So that's basically what it would look like, or something along those lines. So now any one of these will require a little bit of a lenience in terms of code, and we will need to talk about that as to what is it that if this is something that the city would give us in terms of certain small variances we'll need, or is it a different approach that Brandon has been talking about that I will have him maybe discuss with you at this point in time. But I'm happy to take any questions. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay. All right. Mr. Shahadi, what is the name of your company?
Well, in this particular case...
Yeah, I didn't. I kept looking for it and I didn't see it.
Actually, you know what? We don't have a name for the company. Every project has its own name. For instance, in Raleigh, we named the company and the project The Saint.
The Saint.
The Saint. And we're investors, and we would start a new limited partnership for every project for tax purposes. As such, we don't have an overarching company. We have our own holding companies that would be investors and put money into these limited partnerships for every single project. In Alberta, for instance, it's called Crystal Blue Developments.
Crystal Blue Developments. Okay.
Correct. So if you were to look at the Saint, for instance, you'll see that particular project. So for this here, we still don't have a name.
Okay.
It's sitting under a limited partnership called STS Partners. But as we put a name to it, we will end up with that particular name as the name of the company. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I just thought you had names to your business.
We
ventures,
do actually. We do have like our holding companies are the only common theme across the board.
And so that's Crystal Blue Development. That's
Crystal Blue Developments is actually a project.
Oh, it's a project.
Correct.
Okay. And so your holding company, does that have a name?
Yes, it's called STS Partners.
SDS, okay.
Yeah, so that's the current owner
Partners. Okay,
of
great.
this particular, but you will not find much about it. It's a private entity. We'll just keep it pretty local.
Very good. I thought I saw in the paperwork that you were also, did I see the word mixed use?
Yes.
So I'm wondering why we don't have a business front.
Oh, there is
below.
a business front.
Is there? I didn't see that.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so if you'll point that out, yeah.
I'm going back to the next one, please. Next one. Forward, please. This one here.
Okay, so where are
All right. So
where is the business?
So
I didn't.
Do you mind if I was to?
No, go right ahead. But you know what? We are recording you, so we have a pointer. So that if you'll go back to, yes, we need to keep it all. We have people online that are listening, so we need to get them to be able to hear you. So yes, if you'll just use the pointer, That'd be great.
Very good. So for this particular plan that we're proposing, this one here, this is building A.
Building A.
Right, the front of this building, just off Pass Road, so this is Pass Road there, the front here, is a commercial front.
Okay.
Right.
I
So if
missed
you were to
that.
look at these particular parking spots, those parking spots are actually for commercial use. The gate they're proposing is right here, another gate right here, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So inside of this is all residential.
Okay. All right.
Right? Does that
Thank
make
you. I
sense?
appreciate. Yes,
Yeah, thank you
I'm
very
really
much.
glad that that you pointed that out. I agree with you that the impact of any development we put there is going to impact Bandera Road coming and going. And we also have another larger apartment complex. I don't know if you knew that, right outside of Leon Valley,
Yes.
past
300
Eckerd on the
units.
left. Yes.
Yes.
And so it's it's something we have to deal with. But I didn't know if you knew that right there on Post Road, there is a bus from VIA that goes there and goes directly to the medical center.
Actually,
If we
we
could
know
partner
that
with
it's
them.
like right outside
Yeah,
our
it's right
property,
outside.
and we love that. And that was one of the main attractions.
Mhm.
That I believe I may have included that in one of the slides.
I
Maybe
don't
I
know,
didn't.
but
Maybe I omitted to do that.
It's
But
ideal.
When I drove by and I saw that bus stop and I saw that piece of land, after all we've heard, I went ahead with it. Just so you know, that bus
Right.
stop was actually a trigger for us for our decision.
So that's a good way to reduce the traffic if we can get people on the bus to get to the medical center.
That's exactly right.
It also goes to UTSA,
It sure does.
and it can go a direct line.
Yeah, it splits off at the medical center and goes up, and then it goes back downtown. But the hub is the medical center, and that's who you're trying to attract.
Exactly right.
Correct. Okay, so the Primo Bus, and you said your private holding company is the financier.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, and then I know I get this a lot, and but we did have another development right down Grissom Road that we had approved. And is there any plans for changing the development in the future to accommodate, people with lower income, or no?
No, like at this point in time, this is our first project.
Yeah.
We want to work with the city. We want to understand your needs. Honestly, we're not smart enough to come up with what is the best for the city. We're open. We want to do this first project as a test pilot. After that, our intention is to do more.
Okay.
We just wanted to get the first experience and see how it goes, if that makes sense to you.
Sure.
So we're open to ideas.
Okay.
Absolutely open to ideas.
Very good. Okay. I want to ask my colleagues for their input, and Councilman Bradshaw, we'll just go around the table. How's that? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. It's very well put together. If you were to do this example here, how many businesses would go into that section A? Do you have an idea?
Yes, it'll be 3,500 square feet worth of. So if we wanted to have medical professionals, for instance, maybe a doctor, or we could have 2 to 4 potential businesses in there.
Businesses in the front.
You got it.
Okay, and then you kind of showed 2 different concepts, one with the townhouses, lofts, and then the other with the rentals.
Yes.
Which way are you leaning? What do you feel is better?
We actually believe both of them, from an economical perspective, both of them make economical sense. And it's just, where's your appetite? We're totally open to either one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because
you.
it's not, excuse me, it's not just about the economical returns. It's what's going to work and what's going to fit within the community from a long-term perspective. Yeah, we may make a little bit more money in one particular scenario, but we're not interested in that differential right now. It's not big enough for us to lean one way or another.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
All
clarifying.
right. Councilor Martinez?
I personally prefer the townhouse model. It's more stability. People are going to be buying them. They're going to stay around longer, and it gives our community more stability. Second thing, I liked your fact that San Antonio, New Braunfels is one of the fastest growing areas. And I can see in the future that San Antonio, Austin is going to become one metro area, just like you refer to Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. It's not going to be long before it's going to be referred to as the San Antonio-Austin metro area. It's almost filled in between the two cities.
Yeah.
So you have a good vision there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Alcacer.
On your first part where you said there were going to be almost 168 units or something like that,
Yes.
was that the lofts or the rental property?
That's the rental property.
Okay, so the lofts would be the 110?
No, the lofts will be the 67 units. As in, you're thinking about the townhouses, right? That's 67. Yes.
67, okay.
Yes.
So I too, like Councilor Martinez, would prefer the townhomes, lofts. I think that's more needed, and right down Grissom Road, we have two other fairly nice apartment complexes that are recently built, one especially very recent. And I think townhomes, especially in that area, would be particularly good because it's also potentially a walkable area to other parts, and hopefully with our future development on Bandera Road. But I personally would like to see the lofts rather than apartments. I don't think we need any more apartment complexes. So my concern would be a little on the height of them. I guess that's part of what your possible variance is on. And maybe Brandon's going to talk about how we reach that.
Yes, like currently, for that particular scenario, we're looking at 3-story high. So that's within.
But you want the 4-story.
We would like to have the fourth as like a small area to be able to access the rooftop. Maybe like a little sitting area, little bedroom. But the majority of the top will be a rooftop patio. Right, but to get to the rooftop, you need something. You need to be able to get upstairs, and you need some landing area as well, potentially of a little bit of a funky little area for the kids, or or a little office, home office, something along those lines.
So it wouldn't be a full 4-story, or you're thinking?
Right. No, absolutely not. No, we'll be looking at just like a small area. We can decide what that is with you. Maybe like a couple 100 square feet, just to allow us a chance to put something that gives us.
And that would be for each unit?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, because so you don't have any provision for, like, even a pool, it doesn't look like, for...
So we're looking at that first building in the front. We're looking at a top area that is a common area, like the top floor being common area. And we're actually looking potentially at a rooftop pool as a concept as well. And we evaluated cost on it. We believe it's feasible. So we just need to work with the city to decide if this is something that we like it. We believe it's feasible financially, like in terms of economically. So we're definitely wanting to do that.
And what about a rooftop bar?
What kind of bar are we talking about? Yes, well, you know what? It's for the for the community, to use. It's strictly for community use is what we're looking for here. But if you believe there's a commercial use for the top.
Residential community?
Yes.
Okay.
For the residential community.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming, and I have a Canadian brother, so I have some interest in Canada too. So.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you for your presentation, and I think Mr. Bradshaw already took care of it. I was wondering about the commercial space in front.
Okay, very good.
That's answered.
Councilor Charles.
I agree with Councilor Martinez. I would like to see the lofts. And as you know, Brandon's probably already told you, right beyond that, there are 2 apartment complexes and another one
being built as we speak off of Timber Hill. So we have a lot of apartment complexes in the area, but nothing of this quality for no townhouses or lofts. So I would like to see it in target professionals, because we do have a number of them living in my subdivision. And I don't want to lose them to your lofts, but they are out in this area that work for the medical center.
That's good feedback. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just another follow-up. What, if we were to go with the lofts, what variances do you need in order to make the lofts? I know you said something about parking, but I thought parking was with the apartments, not with the lofts.
Yes,
Did I
so-
misunderstand?
Right. Let me. If this is it seems to be the preference going down this path, there are minor variances that would be required. The first one is around height, so that we can get that fourth floor landing area, because currently it's not allowed by code. Number two will be the width. The road. Currently, there are definitions around, is this an avenue? Is this a street? Is this, depending on which definition the city decides, that is, this could be a huge requirement for much wider road coming into the development. We're looking at it as a private access.
Private access.
Right?
Okay.
Which is, we're hoping that we will get the 28-foot or maybe like 30-foot road that will allow in and out. And we're hoping for those alleys to be around 20 feet wide, which is fitting within, we had a conversation with the fire marshal as part of our assessment process. And they're okay with those in terms of like fire access and safety, right? So this would allow us to get this development as is, as well as for visitor parking. We would need lenience on using the commercial side of the parking side as also visitor during the evening, and as well as road parking. So if a visitor wants to park on the road, that I believe currently they can, there's no issue there, but we just wanted to validate with the city that this is something that will be okay. We're likely to need to move that bus stop maybe just before or just after, because it's sitting right at there right now, which is the access. This is the emergency access exit for the project.
Okay, and what about parking for the lofts, the residents?
Right.
Where would that be?
So the parking is actually, if you look, every unit has two stalls right there.
Okay.
Right. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Okay.
Right. So they're
it's
actually enclosed.
It's surface parking?
It's surface parking and it's garages.
Oh, garages. Okay.
So like secured garages.
Okay.
They can use also for storage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
For this area here, this is the parking for the building. The building will be also a 4-story. This is actually where we need also some variance, because this side here, we want to have all the amenities on the top floor, which is the 4th floor. Right? We're allowed only 3 stories. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. It sure does. What else was I going to say?
So if you have a 4-story on that building and a lot of the visual is going north or northwest, would it block the vision, say particularly from building B?
You mean looking up that way?
Yes, because
Well,
that's, looking at the hill country is part of a nice view from that area.
Yeah, I'm not honestly so sure. We did not test that view from the 4th level. We maybe should, honestly, we should get the lift and just go up and see what kind of view we would get, because that's what people will be seeing from their rooftops. So That's very good feedback. We'll definitely have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, because it is a really pretty view. I agree.
Yeah, brilliant.
So just to confirm, your market research does support that our community or in the region will support a loft at $200,000 to $300,000. Is that what you're saying per unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
All right. Very good. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else in our chambers that would like to ask a question on this potential development in Leon Valley? Please don't be shy. He needs your feedback. He wants your feedback.
And Mayor, if we
Yes.
can, I'd like to hear a little bit from Brandon about how we conceivably could grant variances in the overlay like he's requesting.
Okay. That's very. Let me be sure that there's no other question in the chambers first. Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move to Mr. Milan. Mr. Milan.
Thank you very much for your time.
You bet.
Pleasure
Thank you for
meeting
your
all.
presentation. Do appreciate it.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. So, in discussing these different projects, Mr. Shahade mentioned some of the challenges that go into any kind of mixed-use project or any kind of townhouse project, and so definitely, sometimes flexibility is needed in order to facilitate complex projects in existing urban environments or master plan communities, in order to make that whole vision come to fruition. So, there's a couple different ways to provide a relief. Generally relief is kind of the primary general term for giving somebody waivers, variances, modifications to zoning requirements. There's always variances, but as we discussed several months ago, the path to a variance, that is a very narrow path. Receiving a variances are only provided by a board of adjustment, and the criteria is very strict on that, and there has to be a very clear hardship. That's what state law dictates, is there has to be a very clear, unique hardship that exists in order to validate the granting of a variance. And so, because that's such a narrow path, there are other mechanisms which can be a little bit more efficient in doing that. And one of those mechanisms is a planned development district zoning. A lot of you may know it also as a PUD. Planned unit development. So a lot of cities have planned development district zonings in place or PUD zonings in place. And in terms of legally, PUDs and PDDs have been established and to be a legally viable method of providing relief from certain zoning requirements for complex projects, and that provides an alternative to a variance. That way, if you give away a variance and there's not a hardship, then you're risking having to provide that equity to other people down the road, and so there are issues with that. So a PDD or a PUD is one method of providing zoning for a project and providing relief from certain zoning requirements. And so we've already started that process. A couple of months ago, staff took a draft for a potential for PDD, Planned Development District Regulations, to the Zoning Commission, anticipating this project and also anticipating another project that we have in the works too. And so, there's criteria for planned development districts. It always needs to be in conformance with a comprehensive master plan. The purpose of a planned development district, it needs to be for a lot more than just providing a waiver. You can't just ask for a planned development district just to get a variance for height or parking or something. It clearly needs to show this project conforms to the comprehensive master plan, the goals of the community, and it generally facilitates a project that is of higher quality or a more superior project than you would get just under the general regulations of the zoning code. So more or less, it's kind of a give and take. It's okay. This variance is permitted to, this variance for height is permitted. However, that the city may receive other benefits out of that project that show that demonstrate that relief is providing a higher quality development. So I think from a staff level, that is the zoning tool that I would anticipate using for this particular project. And
we've never had a PDD or PUD yet, have we, in the city?
no, ma'am, we do not
Okay.
have that
Didn't
zoning
think
tool.
so.
You know, where most cities do have it. We have a mixed-use zoning district
right.
that was created several years ago, I think, to anticipate more complex projects. But that project doesn't really provide the flexibility of a PDD. You know, the mixed-use district has certain things that must be in place. You know, a certain percentage of it must be, you know, residential. A certain percentage of it must be open space. And so I would say that, and also one of the caveats of the mixed-use zoning is that the project must be at least 5 acres in size. So I would say, in my interpretation of the mixed-use district, is kind of anticipating a larger scale project. And it's a good zoning district. I think it's a good thing to have in place for right now. It's just one of many tools that are available, and it's always good to have a lot of tools in your
Could you
zoning
get the
toolbox.
council some more information on that? I'd like to read up on it and
Absolutely.
be knowledgeable of it if that's the road we're maybe thinking about going down.
Absolutely. We presented that to the Planning and Zoning District, and so they gave staff some feedback. They had some questions, and so definitely that's something that we're looking at revisiting here at our next zoning commission meeting, and we're anticipating bringing that potentially to the city council at the August 20th meeting. You know, a lot of times we bring, you know, on SUPs, a more simple zoning, you know, in an effort to be business friendly and not hold up the process. We'll bring it to the council a week or so after the zoning commission meeting, but we built in some time for the PDD since that's going to be a lot bigger zoning change, and so give you all a couple of weeks to look that over and look over what the zoning commission's recommendations, the details, give you all the opportunity to reach out to staff with questions.
Okay.
So that's what we anticipate.
Yes.
Answering your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Bradshaw.
Yeah, I just had one question, Mr. Milan.
Sure.
Thank you. As you were looking over these plans and these options, which one did you prefer, the lofts or the apartments, or is there any benefit or negative of either one?
Thanks for asking. I wouldn't say I prefer one over the other. You know, as your planning director, it's kind of my job to present to y'all the benefits and trade-offs of different development types. So I would say that's really, you know, my job is really easy when we have a comprehensive master plan that specifically says we want this kind of land use right here. And so in our current comprehensive master plan, we don't have that. So that's kind of why we're looking at going back through and digging in a little bit deeper. And so, you know, what I'm working off of is, you know, previous planning efforts. You know, we've talked a lot about, you know, there's been a past about having a potential town center here. And we also have the sustainability overlay district in place that directs, you know, that allows for townhouses. It does say that townhouses may consume no more than 50% of any kind of project area. You've got to have some mixed use in there. But also, you know, you read the purpose of the Sustainability Overlay District, and it says the purpose is to facilitate mixed use development. But it doesn't go into a lot of depth about multifamily. And right now in the Sustainability Overlay District, multifamily is not permitted. That was what the direction was 10 years ago when we created that district. And so you know, that's where, you know, my recommendation to y'all and direction to y'all in terms of the benefits and trade-offs comes into play. Definitely, townhouse is what the Sustainability Overlay District says is permitted. But at the same time, you know, it's up to me to look at current planning efforts. We've got the Bandera Road planning effort underway. You know, there's a number of different options that are going to be considered there. You know, in that effort, the word mixed use, multi-use boulevard comes up a lot. And also it's up to me to look at, okay, what are the economic benefits and trade-offs of, say, townhouse versus mixed use. You know, townhouse development with 67 residential units, $250,000 a piece. You do the math on that versus, you know, a 4-story, for-rent development with mixed use that, say, has 50 units per acre versus a townhouse development that has 15 or 16. That's a big difference in the number of people that are living there. That's a big difference in the number of shoppers that you're going to have in this community. That's also a substantial difference in the improved value of that property. Again, I'm just throwing out numbers. The difference between a $12 million project versus a $45 to $50 million project. There's ad valorem that this city is going to get based on 12 million versus 45 million. There's benefits and trade-offs there, but then there's also traffic impact and different things there that have an impact. So that's really, and looking at what the vision is, what kind of uses are compatible. Do we think that a townhouse for sale development is compatible right next to, a heavy traffic corridor? I mean, it's literally a stone's throw from Bandera Road. Is that someplace where townhouse is appropriate? Or maybe Bandera Road, which is a, very high traffic corridor, which, I lived in Austin I worked on some projects up there. I look at Bandera Road, I see a very sharp comparison between Bandera Road and South Lamar. And looking at what exists on South Lamar and Austin, single family, low density, auto-oriented retail, and you see, what's developing there, a lot more, higher density mixed use development, which is creating a lot more value for the community. And maybe is that more appropriate for a high density, high impact corridor? And so those are things. And as your planner, I wouldn't say my preference is high density, but I would say I believe that a high density mixed use multifamily is more appropriate for that area and is more sustainable long term economically for this community.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And
Same.
we look forward to getting that information on the PDD or the PUD.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving then to the city manager's report. Ms. Caldera.
So the city manager's report is outside. I'm not going to go over the upcoming meetings. I just wanted to let council know that there was an issue at the intersection of Evers and Wurzbach. There is a sinkhole there. We don't know how long it's going to take for the repairs to take place, but they're doing everything they can to do it quickly. And so hopefully the roads will open shortly.
Crystal, how did that happen?
The contractor from Saws hit a water main.
Okay.
And it caused a sinkhole to happen.
Okay.
Everything's happening on the San Antonio side. It was San Antonio's project. We're just getting the impact of the traffic.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you for that. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
And then I just wanted to reiterate that there's not E. coli in our drinking water. There was a lot of stuff that was going out on the media. I guess what happened was they didn't read all the way down the post that we sent out. And so it was a secondary well. It was taken from a raw water sample. And so currently right now we're flushing that well out. It's offline. And once it's back up in service, we'll let everybody know.
Okay. So they don't have to boil their water or anything like
to.
that? Okay.
We're good. It's not
Thank
the
you. I
drinking
did get a
water.
call on that. Okay. Thank you.
And then there is a Citizens Police Advisory Committee because of the 312 hearing that was originally scheduled for Wednesday night. They had canceled the meeting, but since the 312 hearing got moved, they're going ahead and posted for the Citizens Police Advisory Committee, and that will be here tomorrow night at 6. And then Sandra sent y'all an email on the annual TML conference. It is in San Antonio this year. So if any of y'all want to go, if you could please let Sandra know by Monday, she'd greatly appreciate it so that we can get you all registered.
All right.
And that concludes my city manager report.
Okay. Thank you very much. Crystal, I just wanted to point out that the coffee with the mayor and council is this coming Saturday, 9 to 11 here in this room. And I believe last council meeting, I had specifically asked if we could actually put the topic, which is Peachtree, and it's not there.
No, what I'm
And
going to
so
do is I'm
if
going
you
to
could
send
add
out a
that.
special e-news just for the coffee because I realized after I sent it, I realized that I told Mary Bell to add it on this
Okay.
e-news. But we'll send out one all by itself since it's a location change.
Okay.
And the topic is Petrie.
Okay, and then could you also put it on the website?
There.
Under the little number 20, the 20th of July. It just says coffee.
Okay.
Could
okay,
you
I'll
put the topic there too?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because some people might just go there and not have e-news. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Not a problem.
All right. Moving then to agenda item number 4. Are there any questions for Ms. Caldera? Additional questions, I'm sorry, from the council or from our guest in the chambers? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move to citizens to be heard. Agenda item number 4. Anyone in the chambers like to address the council this evening, please come forward and state your name and where you live. And you have up to 5 minutes to speak under citizens to be heard. Okay. Seeing no one, then we'll move to announcements by the mayor and council members. Councilor Charles, do you have any announcements?
I want to thank everyone for coming, and I thank you for your presentation. Those look great. I was out of town for a few days. My brother is sick in Arkansas, so I was up getting his business so I can take care of his business long distance. And so that's difficult, but we managed to accomplish everything we needed to do, so I'm glad I'm back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
I second Ms. Donna as far as thanking everybody for coming, and I know everybody thanked the people that worked 4th of July, but again, thanks for all the hard work you do on that day and every other day.
Thank you. Councilor Alcacer.
Yeah, I was glad to see that we dodged a bullet on that Evers-Wurzbach fiasco, that because a number of ours have been caused by contractors, like the big one on Bandera Road a year or so ago, but it wasn't hard to do the cut-throughs to get by it, so it isn't that difficult yet, but hopefully it will be done. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your interest in what the city does.
Thank you. Councilor Martinez.
Again, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight and the people on the internet. And I really want to thank all the support I have received from not just the residents of Leon Valley, but a lot of people in San Antonio for the fiasco that's going on here.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bradshaw.
I'd just like to thank everybody, the same as the rest of the councilors, for everybody attending and taking an interest in the city matters.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think everything's been said. Hope to see you this Saturday at the coffee here at 9 o'clock. And then if anyone is not sure, the 312 hearing's been rescheduled for this Thursday at 5:30. And if we need to, we go to Friday at 5:30 here in the chambers. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, Chief Naughton is here. How about Chief Burnside? He's not here? 5 more minutes? Okay, we'll wait for both of them. As you know, we're waiting for the 2 chiefs so we can honor them appropriately. All right, moving then to consent agenda. Consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.5. Is there any one of the counselors that would like to pull any of these items for discussion? Seeing no one, may I have a motion and a second to approve?
I move that we approve 6.1 through 6.5 as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Alcacer and a second by Councilor Rodriguez to approve consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.5 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Moving then to agenda item number 7, ordinance. Ms. Pasolay, if you'll please read that ordinance.
An ordinance amending the Leon Valley Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1, Article 1.04, City Council, Section 1.04.002, Assignment of Council Members to Committees, providing for repeal or severability and savings clauses, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. This is a second read, and we will need to vote on it tonight. Is there any questions regarding what's in the packet? It's very short before we move on this.
There are no changes.
There's no changes from the last. Okay. Yes, Councilor Alcacer.
I would like to take out the word temporary, because we don't really have temporary committees, except maybe we're about to form one, but
I'm sorry, where is the temporary?
It's under the language of
So your sign code advisory committee is it sunset? So as soon as that committee is done with the sign code and presents to y'all, that committee is technically a temporary committee.
Well, we just have temporary committees and statutory boards, and what about the other committees that are neither of those? Then I'd like to include those.
Mayor and Council, if I can make a suggestion?
Sure, go ahead.
We can put language in that says standing committees,
Okay.
temporary committees, and statutory boards.
Okay, and I thought our code said that mayor and council, but is it no longer just the mayor? Isn't that under our city charter?
Yeah, I'm
on-
trying to
I'm
find
on
it in the page.
118
Oh, okay.
in our packet.
118? Okay. Oh, there it is, right there. The mayor from time to time may appoint one or more council members to temporary committees and statutory boards to serve as council liaisons. The member appointed shall not vote or count as a quorum. And
What did you wanna, what were you saying that?
Okay, I thought our charter said the mayor and council or something. It, anyway, doesn't just any longer say the mayor is what my recall is. I may be mistaken, but I didn't bring my
I didn't
charter
bring my
tonight.
charter either.
I don't have mine. Let me see. Get one. Oh, can I borrow yours? Yes.
And then would we add
Standing committees.
standing committees, temporary and statutory, make that change? Did y'all see that on page 118?
Okay. You have to give me a minute. Do we have a? I don't know which one it is, but I think we have it like the mayor with the approval of city council, because we always vote on the
Yeah,
committee members.
I usually do the appointments and y'all usually approve them.
So do you want to say the mayor with approval from city council from time to time?
Right.
Is that?
Well, I don't know if it, from time to time, needs to be in there. Appoint one or more, because this has to do with the council members.
Okay.
We volunteer.
I was going to say, that's just what I was thinking. It's usually volunteering. Y'all usually volunteer for a committee, so
So it's not
I don't think it'll be controversial. At least I'd hope not. No, I want to be the council liaison. No, I want to be.
So, just for clarification, Mayor and Council, is, Councilor Alcazar, is your motion to move that, we amend what's in the ordinance attached, to have language in section 1 that says the mayor, with approval from city council, may appoint one or more council members to standing and temporary committees and statutory boards to serve as council liaisons. The members appointed shall not vote or count as a quorum.
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
Is that your motion?
I so moved.
Okay. So we have a motion. Does anyone want to second this?
I second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilor Alcacer and a second by Councilor Charles to amend 7.1 ordinance to include the mayor with council approval may appoint one or more council members to standing temporary committees and statutory boards to serve as council liaisons. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Was that unanimous? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I never know. I just realized before, please bear with me. and I meant to do it under announcements, but Melinda just wanted to show me, but I wanted to show everyone, and I'll leave it out there in the foyer. This is the plaque that the Public Works received from APWA, Texas chapter, in recognition of Outstanding Achievement Project of the Year Structures, $2 million to $5 million, and is presented to Evers Road Bridge, City of Leon Valley. And I just wanted to thank you for sharing this with us. And again, let's show our appreciation for a job well done. All of a sudden, Melinda, I saw it and I went, oh no, I blew it, I forgot. But thank you for bringing it, and we will let everyone else see it as well. Okay, thank you. Oh, and Eric is here. All right, so if the council and our citizens will bear with us, we will then now move back to agenda item 2.1, presentation and administration of the oath of office of Leon Valley Fire Chief Michael Naughton and Assistant Chief Eric Burnside. If they will come in, please, I'd appreciate it. It was safe. I know y'all were on the call. Everything okay?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Good.
We apologize for the smell up front.
Safety's number one in this community, so we certainly understand. Everybody is just so glad y'all are back. Okay, so let me take Chief Naughton first. If you'll please repeat after me. Let me just say, in the name of the authority of the state of Texas, I,
Michael Naughton, do solemnly swear to do my duty as Fire Chief of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, to the best of my ability, to serve the City of Leon Valley Fire Department with honor, integrity, and courage. I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties for the appointment of the department according to the laws of the state of Texas and of the City of Leon Valley, to the best of my skills and abilities, so help me God.
thank you, and I think you were supposed to raise your hand, so I'm sorry. I'm just not with it tonight. Signed by my hand, and usually I'll repeat, but I just thought, you can read and do this, and so we appreciate that. Signed by my hand on the 16th day of July 2019. Chief, thank you. We're so glad you're here and doing a fantastic job. Let's give our Chief a round of applause. Maybe I'll do it this way. Okay. In the name, okay, raise your hand. Yes, sir. In the name, and by the right hand, that's right. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I
Eric Burnside,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to do my duty as Assistant Fire Chief
to do my duty as Assistant Fire Chief
of the City of Leon Valley, Texas,
of the City of Leon Valley, Texas,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
to serve the City of Leon Valley Fire Department with honor, integrity, and courage.
to serve the City of Leon Valley Fire Department with honor, integrity, and courage.
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
my duties for the appointment of the department
my duties for the appointment of the department
according to the laws of the state of Texas
according to the laws of the state of Texas
and the City of Leon Valley,
and of the City of Leon Valley,
to the best of my skills and abilities, so help me God.
to the best of my skills and abilities, so help me God.
Signed by my hand, the 16th day of July 2019, Mayor Chris Riley. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're so glad. Yes, I don't know if many of y'all know, but Chief Burnside was promoted from Fire Marshal to Assistant
Yes, ma'am.
Fire Chief, so we thank you for that.
Thank
Okay, and how many years have you been here?
6 years.
6 years, and I know you were at the, we stole you from the city of Chavano, and you've been here for about
8 months.
months. There you go. Okay, very good. Anything else that you'd like to say? Are you sure?
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Mayor.
We've done it that way.
Mayor,
Anyway.
Mrs. Burnside's here too.
Oh,
So-
Mrs.
yes, my
Burnside,
wife.
yes. I kept looking at her and I said, I've seen her before. I've seen her before. Who is she? Come on up, Mrs. Burnside. Yes, and take pictures. Thank you. No, you would have been in trouble. How are you? So glad you're here. Thank you so much. All right. And y'all, okay. I'll get in a picture. Thank you. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
And the city attorney said she was Smokey the Bear in the parade.
Yes, she was.
Oh, were you? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, thanks.
So she sacrificed for the city too. That was
It was hot. Okay. As per the council's approval, agenda number 8.4 will be presented next under regular agenda. Discussion and possible action on the creation of a city council subcommittee with the appointment of 2 city council members to serve as city council liaisons to the zoning commission regarding a zoning and community feedback process for a potential mixed-use development on approximately 3 acres generally located at 6758 Post Road. Mr. Milan, do you have something to present?
Mayor, may I ask first a question for our city attorney?
Okay. Go ahead.
Should we have included the word subcommittee in the prior motion? And is it too late to do it? Or will this one stand on its own?
This will probably stand on its own.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this is a unique committee right here. I'm sorry. It could probably be filed under temporary committee.
Yes, I think so.
All right.
Definitely. Okay.
Thank you. I'll keep my presentation brief. And so as the city attorney pointed out, this could be classified as temporary committee. You could also classify this as, appointing project liaisons, council project liaisons as well. Subcommittee was just the term that I used. I worked in San Marcos, and that's what we did on major complex projects. We had master plan communities or big mixed-use projects. Typically the city council, in recognizing the importance and complexity of such a project and the importance of making sure that all the different, approval boards, governing body, making sure everybody is on the same page. Citizens also are receiving, constant, getting opportunities for input at all aspects of this project, making sure that everybody is involved in that project as the project moves along. And so in San Marcos, we typically have a subcommittee, and the governing body would appoint 2 to 3 council members, and that was their specific role, was being involved in the zoning commission meetings, and there frequently they would even have meetings depending on how complex the project was. Some of those meetings would be open to the public to work through those issues. Again, the point of projects like this is to make sure that the community is able to give feedback at all steps. That way, by the time the project gets to the governing body, there aren't any things that are left, any stones left unturned, and there aren't any big issues that might become contentious and make everybody's time wasted in the end. So that's really, that's something that staff is recommending, that the governing body appoint 2 members from this governing body, from the council to be the council liaisons for the development of this project. And to just, kind of specifically identify, it's up to the council to decide what those duties specifically would be. But in staff's recommendation and bringing this item to you, I could specifically see 2 specific tasks of the council to attend zoning commission meetings. We already had some council members at the zoning commission meeting, so we've already been receiving that feedback. That's great. But to have 2 council members that would attend zoning commission meetings, be there to hear the community input, be there to hear the zoning commission dialogue. And then have that be their task to be reporting back to the city council as a body in public meetings. Obviously there's Open Meetings Act requirements for council discussing outside of a meeting. So that's the whole point, is I could potentially have items on subsequent council agendas for those council liaisons to be able to give an update on the project to the council as a body. So here's where the project is. At the last zoning commission meeting, we discussed these particular topics. And really in complex projects like this, it's all about information, communication happening at all levels. And so, I've, at a staff level, the developers initially reached out to me. It's my job to provide them with preliminary feedback. And then at a certain point, before the project gets too far, it's my job to bring that project to the zoning commission, which is exactly what I did. And then tonight, the zoning commission provided feedback. That's why Mr. Smith, the chairman, brought the project to y'all to begin that dialogue with y'all. Y'all have given feedback. The zoning commission provided a little bit of feedback that's not exactly the same as the council. So that's exactly why we create subcommittees like this and why we have different people. That way, everybody's involved, and if council maybe has certain opinions on the project, or the liaisons do, and then the zoning commission seems to have opinions, everybody's having that discussion together, and then the community is able to be in the room at the zoning commission and the council meeting for all this dialogue. So that's a great way for a project to evolve, and so that's the purpose of this item this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the estimated length of time?
I would say, ideally, we can, ideally within the next 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4
I think,
months.
we could have a few different meetings. I think a good aggressive timeline would be 3 to 4 months. Sometimes projects like this can take up to 6 months.
Okay, so at the end of 3 to 4 months, when we get the project passed from the council, then this committee, subcommittee would be dissolved?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm interested.
Okay, you're interested. Anyone else interested?
I would be interested as well.
Okay.
That was my question, as well as the time period. And
Right.
maybe Mr. Milan can tell me, how often does the zoning committee meet? Is it
Once a month.
Okay,
Usually.
so that's not bad. I could do it as well.
It's usually the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Zoning
Or-
commission, I'm sorry.
Ms. Charles, if you want to do it, you can do it too.
Okay, all right, so anyone else like to be considered besides Counselor? No, I understand, but I want to make sure, and we could vote on it if anyone else is interested in serving. I have Counselor Bradshaw, Counselor Alcacer, anyone else?
I make a motion, we accept these two
All right,
nominees.
thank you. And is there a second?
I second.
All right, there's a motion to appoint Counselor Bradshaw and Counselor Alcacer to the subcommittee that we've been discussing for this special mixed-use project. Any further discussion? And we have a motion by Counselor Martinez and a second by Counselor Charles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Thank you all very much. I realized I hadn't said who moved and who seconded, so, okay, thank you. Then we move back to agenda item 8.1. Ms. Pasley, if you'll please read that ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, City Council accepting the lowest responsive bid and awarding a contract in the amount not to exceed $261,498 with 15% for contingency to Clearfield Construction for the purpose of constructing the Forest Meadow Drainage Project, authorizing the city manager to
Thank
execute
you.
a contract, authorizing the amendment of the enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 2018-2019 in the amount of $170,723 to provide proper funding, providing repealer, severability, and savings clauses, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Ms. Moritz, and welcome. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, Council.
So in other words, we're looking at a rain garden.
We are.
Yeah, that's I
and
kept
it's-
looking for the word, but
It's kind of
yeah.
a mix between we couldn't do a bioswale, but it's going to have weirs in it. It'll have rain garden. It's going to be really a pretty project.
Right. Okay.
And so the purpose and the goals of it are to improve the water quality entering Hebner Creek, reduce flooding and ponding of the stormwater, create a park amenity that's attractive to our community, and maximize our tree planting opportunities. So this is going to fall right into that. We need to plant more trees. Here's the project location. You have your, yeah. This is Raymond Rimkus Park up here, and this is the Forest Meadow entrance down here. And there's the natural area. And this gives you a better view of the problem child. This entrance right here takes all the water from this side of that subdivision, and it ponds right in here. This used to be a drain that went under this bridge, and it would go down here, and then there's an underground drain that goes straight to Hebner Creek. Well, this is all silted in under here, and now it creates a alluvial fan right here, and this is just horrible. It's impassable even today. In 2016, the Park Commission was approached by the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance about a grant opportunity for the installation of a rain garden somewhere in the city. They weren't picky about where we put it, but the park and staff chose this area because it is frequently inundated with the floodwaters. It's impassable for days at a time. That bridge is not ADA compliant. It does not have the correct slope on it. And then the water rushes down to Hebner Creek, which adds to the bank erosion. The project was recommended for approval by the Park Commission as this area is not used for park activities right now. But then the Greater Edwards Aquifer Authority realized they'd made a mistake. The park is not in a recharge zone, and so therefore we were not eligible for a grant. The Park Commission recommended going ahead with the project because it does support our stormwater best management practices, and it'll relieve all the problems in there, plus get rid of that bridge. And this just shows you the Sun Valley drainage area. And so this whole side of this subdivision drains directly down to the Forest Meadow entrance, and a little portion right here too. The rest of this is another problem child, but we'll have to address it at a different time because this is what goes directly into the natural area and then directly down to Hebner Creek.
That is the floodway. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Oops, and there you see the bridge, and you can clearly see the slope. Not good. Plus, it's ugly.
Yes.
You know, that was done when Melinda, when Mayor Meffert was here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's been a long
And
time.
PVC was all the rage for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And can you describe how they're going to change the bridge?
It'll be completely ripped out, and then it'll go down into the swale, so you'll actually walk down it and up. There will be no bridge whatsoever.
There'll be no bridge whatsoever. Okay, great. Thank you.
And then this is the area that collects most of the oil, gas, mud, transmission fluid, whatever's coming off of Forest Meadow. And it makes the gardeners mad because it's hard for them to get their equipment and supplies through to the garden. You can't use the sidewalks over there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to incorporate low-impact development design principles. So like I said, we couldn't do the bioswale, but we can do some retention and other similar water quality improvement features, plus provide a design that's functional and beautiful. This also conforms to the city's master plan for our environment. Remember, we wanted to do the 500 live trees per year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an example of what one can look like. And so all that water will go right in and filtrate down instead of running off. And there's just another shot of one.
I love those grasses. I think they're so beautiful, don't you?
And then these are some of the grasses that were recommended by the people that designed this project. And they're pretty. And just some more of them. And this is what the finished product would look like. Here's the entrance off of Forest Meadow, and you'd have a nice little walking path that goes all the way around. Here is the retention area, so you'd have a neat, probably limestone block weir here, a limestone block weir here. This bridge would be removed, and this drains then slowly, or much more slowly, down to our Hebner Creek.
Are y'all going to have to clean out, the silt that's been...
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, where it'll drain all the way to Hebner Creek?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So our engineering was $26,832, but that was already budgeted for this project. The low bid on the construction was $261,498. We add contingency in, so the total for that is going to be $327,555. We budgeted $156,832, so we're going to need a budget adjustment of $170,723. Like I said, we'd put money in, but we only put $130,000 as a place marker. After the design and engineering, the engineer's construction estimate was $152,000, so we weren't that far off from the engineer's bid. However, the bids did come in higher. So in order to fully fund it, we'll need that budget adjustment. The stormwater fund balance was $950,000 as of last September, and the funds that are in this fund may only be spent on stormwater, so we can't use it for streets or for sidewalks or any other projects. And so we recommend that the City Council approve an ordinance which would award the bid to Clearfield Construction in the amount of $261,498 with 15% for contingency. Authorize the city manager to enter into a contract and approve the budget adjustment for $170,000 from the stormwater fund balance for this project. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I had a question. Is the balance of $950,434 as of 9/30/18, is that the current budget? We get money every month from stormwater, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So
And
that
I think
fund's
it's like
always
around $300,000 a year that we bring in from that.
All right. So we have plenty. We haven't done anything else in recent months that we took from stormwater. I'm trying to think if we did.
Part of the street sweeper,
Yes.
$150,000.
Okay. All right. But we still have plenty to cover it with and you'll let us know what the balance is after we.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then also, I'm concerned about the impact on the park because I'm there almost every morning because we do have a garden as well, garden plot. And I mean, it is teeming with people jogging, running. They have their dog, their strollers. So how is that? Are we going to have to, you know, block off this whole section so people can't walk there? Or how's
We
that gonna
will,
be?
however, like I said, the only part of this that's used regularly is the basketball court.
Well,
This
and
is all just flat, vacant, yuck ground
Okay.
right now. So
But
they run, but they run
is
this
that going to
way.
be okay? That won't be shut down?
The part that will is where the bridge is.
Is the bridge?
Because we're
So
going to
see,
take the bridge
yeah.
out.
So where are they going to go?
They'll have to go around the other way, keep going straight. Or they can walk down here and walk around.
Okay, that's the baseball.
Progress takes some
I know,
sacrifice.
baseball diamond, okay. Oh, does this rain garden have to be watered? That's what I was wondering.
No, they're all, they will to begin with,
To
to get them
begin with.
established. But
Okay.
then they're all native grasses that grow whether you water them or not.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. All right, and then I had asked about the bridge, but you said it was going to be taken out and it's going to be a slope. So those are my questions. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Alcacer?
I just wondered why it came in so much higher than the engineer's estimate. Do you have any clue?
No, and I couldn't ask questions because I did the same thing. I'm like, holy Moses, it's 120,000 above what both me and the engineers said. You know, I can see me making that mistake, but so we'll have to wait, and once it's awarded, go ask them, you know, what the heck?
Is it because it's so unique and people haven't done many of these?
It could be that. It also could be that the contractor doesn't own his own equipment and has to rent it. It could be the cost of concrete with them. There's just a
Okay.
lot of variables in there. So
All
I'm
right.
really anxious to know too, though. When I find out, I'll let y'all know.
So you will get an itemization of this bid? Okay,
Yes.
very good. Anyone else? Oh,
Is
speak
the,
up.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish up.
You'd seen the presentation several times with the Park Commission, and it's going to be similar, but not as quite the thing that they were going to
Correct.
make. But were they the same ones who helped with the design, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Charles?
So that trail that's all around there, is that paved or cemented or natural?
We were thinking about putting decomposed granite.
Oh, yes, that's what I like that.
It depends, though. I mean, we've got to see if it's going to last through a flood because the area does flood.
That's
so.
right.
Oh, yeah, because that washes away.
It may be that we do it out of hot asphalt, just like we did the rest of the trails over there.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
What about some permeable surface?
If it doesn't wash away. That's the problem. I love the permeable concrete. That stuff is awesome, and it looks great. It looks like dirt, but it has to be able to stand up to the forces. So.
Right, and it's right in the floodway. So, Councilor Bradshaw?
Well, two questions. Is the pavilion included in the bid, the estimate?
No, sir. That's
Okay,
been,
so that's a future.
y'all have, it's in the budget for October 1.
Okay, so it'll be eventually. I didn't know if that was part of this or.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other thing is the grasses. I guess we would make sure that they're deer-proof.
Good luck.
Deer-proof? Oh, boy.
Yeah, because I can't grow anything in my house.
No.
The deer.
Hey, they've already eaten up the the monarch butterfly garden, you know. They just, yeah.
But it keeps coming back.
It does. It does keep coming back.
Full of wildflowers right now, so
right.
it looked really nice the other days.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Martinez.
I like this project, and I think it's going to make a beautiful addition to our park.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, very good. Thank you. This is our...
One
yes.
last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please give us a definition of a weir?
A weir is like a dam, basically, a smaller dam. And so it'll have 2-3 dams in it. 1, 2, 3.
Does it require it to be like a grassy dam? Or?
No, we're going to make it out of, I think, limestone block, if I remember from what the plans say. Like the stuff that's on the bridge.
Okay, yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. This is our first read, and so we will take this action up on August 6th. Are there any other questions from our residents in the chambers? Okay, thank you. Very good, thank you. This is awesome. Do appreciate it. All right, and you're next, I think, up as well. No. I take that back. Agenda item number 8.2. Ms. Postlev, if you'll please read that ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas City Council amending Leon Valley Code of Ordinances Appendix A, Fee Schedule, Article A 8.002, Building Permits, to modify permit fees for residential building permits, providing for repeal or severability and savings clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Antu is not here this evening?
Mr. Antu is not here this evening. He's under the weather, so I'll be
All right,
presenting in
thank
his
you.
place.
You'll continue, please.
Yes, ma'am. This item tonight, the purpose of this item is to amend Chapter 3 and amend the city's current fee schedule requirements, fees for residential building permits. On May 21st, 2019, the governor signed HB 852 into law, and among the many bills that were passed this last legislative session applying to municipal regulations, this was one of them. And what this law said is it prohibits cities from calculating their residential building permit fees based on the cost of the valuation of the proposed project. So when somebody comes into our office to apply for a building permit, there's a little section on the building permit application that says valuation and cost of what you're proposing. Is it a $300,000 house or a $50,000 addition to a house? And so you're required to fill in that field. And then we have a fee schedule in our code that basically says here's a base fee, depending on how much the cost is. Here's a base fee. And then in addition to that base fee, there's a certain amount per $1,000 of the value. And so that's how we calculate that fee. And so HB 52 specifically said you can't do that anymore for residential permits. It didn't say anything about commercial permits. It just said you can't do it for residential permits. So specifically, the bill said that in determining the amount of a building permit or inspection fee required in connection with the construction or improvement of a residential dwelling, a city may not consider the value of the dwelling. So it also even says we can't require that information. So we had to change our applications to say we may not even require that they disclose that, because that's a violation of this law. So it says the city may not consider the value of the dwelling or the cost of constructing or improving the dwelling. And like I said, a city may not require the disclosure of information. So we've already taken that measure. That's easy to do. We can just put on our application, please don't fill this out. And so the next step is we need to amend our fee schedule. And fortunately, we don't get a lot of residential permits. So we've had a little bit of time to look at this. Frankly, a lot of cities are kind of reeling from this because, most cities do base all their fees off of, kind of a base fee and then a supplemental fee based on the valuation. Like I said, most cities are revising their fee schedules to keep a base fee for residential permits with a supplemental charge that's based on the square footage of the project. There's just not a lot of things you can base an additional fee on. So valuation, square footage are the most logical approaches. So like I said, included in your packet is the proposed ordinance revision. And right now there's a fee schedule that applies to all commercial and residential projects. It's the same for commercial and residential. And so what the proposed ordinance revision, we're keeping it simple. We already have base fees for, like, say, a water heater, things like that, just more simple permits that there's no square footage associated with something like that. It's just a water heater. So we have a flat fee for those types of things. So fortunately, our fee schedule wasn't super complicated, that all we needed to do was just make kind of a simple quick fix. And so that quick fix is up here. What we did in arriving at this new method, we looked at what the Texas Municipal League recommended that we do. I put that update, that bulletin in your packet. So you can see, we're always looking to see what Texas Municipal League recommends. So we followed their guidance. They recommended square footage, basing the fees on square footage. And so what we did is we just looked at a couple of projects we've had over the last year. We had a new build project over in Monte Robles, over on Thunderbird. So that was a good recent build project to look at. That was a pretty large house, about 3,000 square feet. So what we did is we just looked at, okay, what was the square footage of that project? What was the value? What did the fee come out to on that project? And then we looked at what was the square footage of the project, and we just basically did the math in reverse to come up with the same exact fee. And so in looking at that, we already have in our fee schedule for that project, the base fee would have been $800,000. And then we did the rest of the math on it. The remainder of that cost, we just divided and got 50 cents. So if that project were to come in today, and we applied this new fee requirement, $800 minimum permit fee plus 50 cents per square foot, that project would have received the same permit fees. And same, we had an addition in a remodel project, pretty small project. We looked at that, definitely a smaller project, would have within, I think it was a project that was about $50,000. And so if you look at our fee schedule, a project about $50,000, it would have had a base fee of about $400 plus a supplemental fee on top of it based on the valuation. So again, we did the math kind of in reverse. If you applied that $400 minimum permit fee, the balance of that cost that they paid, you look at again, it actually came to about 50 cents a square foot. So again, just want to reiterate, this is what we're looking to do here. We're not, this isn't going to change the cost based on the research that we've had, and we're going to keep monitoring it too. These fees is definitely something. It's not a science. It's just, and that's part of our role. It's just kind of monitoring our fees. We're always doing that anyway. But we're gonna do this. We're recommending this. Next round of projects that will come in, we'll apply the new fee, obviously, because that'll be the law after the next council meeting. And it will also just look at what the old fee would have been, make sure this new fee that we have here isn't more. And if it's more, if it's drastically more, yeah, we'll bring this right back to you and say, hey, okay, we had to modify it. It's just impossible to anticipate every single circumstance. So, but again, to reiterate, this is, in our estimate, our research, our analysis, these fees are going to result in the same fees, no more, no less. And so I think I already addressed how we went about the approach. So with that, we have the proposed ordinance in your packet, shows the red lines and the new fees I just talked about. So happy to take any questions.
Okay. So that was my questions before when I was looking at it. I didn't understand, but that you've said it more than once that the city will not lose money as a result of this legislative change. We're keeping it even from what we had to this new, so that's good. And I'm just wondering, we're raising fees to cover what?
So our fee schedule, and I'll say there are a few costs that the city incurs during the permitting process.
Yeah.
First of all, we have a third-party building plan review and inspection consultant. So we have to pay them.
Okay.
We don't have that person in-house. And also our fees, we have a fire marshal.
Okay.
So fire marshal has to go out and do inspections. Staff, there's definitely staff involved in all aspects of the process. I'm involved. We've got two permit technicians. We have a permit technician, a planning technician, an assistant director. And here it's not a deal where just the permit technicians handle it and I handle a big thing. I mean, everything that comes in the door, everybody has their hands on it because that's the way it ought to be in these things. There's a lot of complex projects. So you're paying for 4 staff members generally. And then there's inspectors.
Building inspector?
Like you said, building inspector.
Yeah, I just wanted to note what those, because we're raising the fees to cover something, so that's what I was wanting to know. Okay.
Well, we're not
very good.
raising, we're not
Well,
raising.
I'm saying the fees cover these
Right.
areas that we need, yeah.
Right.
That
So,
sounds
and I do want to add too, again, I've been here for about a year, and I believe, Melinda could correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the last time we looked at our fee schedule was 2015. That's something that we always need to be looking at. So, based on your question, what, in city government, we should never be making money on fees.
Oh.
We should always be, in a perfect world, breaking even. Again, at the end of the day, the cost of development needs to pay for itself. And so, the citizens don't, request that a new strip center comes in, so they shouldn't bear the cost of that. Development needs to pay for itself. And so, and including the staff that it takes to review that. If it weren't for new development, I might not need to be here. That's development necessitates the planning and zoning department. And so we're always looking at that. We're going to be doing that right now. And so our plan is, we obviously need to fix this. This is urgent. But our plan over the next few months is to look at all of our fees and get really into the details, get into the nuts and bolts. What are the expenses here? What does development cost? And then make sure that our fees are totally in line with that. Make sure we're not making money on the fees.
Okay.
We need to cover the costs. And so our plan is to bring that to y'all probably around October, right at about the time the new fiscal year starts. So anticipate some new fee schedules coming out shortly.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Yes, Councilor Martinez.
That new law that was passed, does it only affect residential?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, so our commercial can stay the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we had that schedule in our packet, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And
Yes,
you-
Councilor Alcacer?
Do you think the legislature is going to come back in 2 years and complain about this method?
It's possible. It is possible.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Bradshaw.
So I know you said that this was the method that Texas Municipal League proposed. Did they give any guidelines, or have we done any comparisons with other cities as far as, $800 plus 50 cents? I know that's the way you calculated to keep it the same, but is theirs comparable, or are we in line with those?
I don't know yet. A lot of cities, I literally got off the phone with Balcones Heights the other day, and they were saying, okay, what are y'all doing? We want to see what y'all are doing.
Trying to figure it out.
Right.
Okay.
And so, really, right now, I think the goal is to make sure that we just get fees that are maintaining our current revenue. And so, but definitely, it's a good question. I think what we'll be doing between now and October is looking at what other cities did,
Yeah,
and maybe
maybe
there's some people that did more creative things. I mean,
Maybe do some benchmarks just to see if if we're in line, right? If they're charging $100, and why are we?
Exactly. We'll definitely be looking at other cities. And again, too, at the end of the day, you look at other cities, but also look at what our expenses are.
Yeah.
Our expenses may be different in doing that too. So at the end of the day, our fees have got to cover our expenses, but make sure that we're not missing out on any creative approaches that other cities might be doing.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else? This is our first read, so if there's any other questions from our residents and guests in the chambers, please don't hesitate to ask. We will bring this back then on August the 6th for a final read as per our charter. Okay, thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Moving then to Agenda 8.3, Ms. Caldera is going to present the discussion and possible action on Music in the Park event, which we started, I think it was last meeting, or a couple of meetings ago.
A couple of
Yes,
meetings
that's right.
ago.
And you went back and got some more proposals. and
Correct.
They're in our packet this evening.
So
Thank you and
came
welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Mhm,
So
good
we came
evening.
to you back in May to request to see what council wanted to do as far as events were concerned. And y'all requested that we go out for an RFP in regards to music in the having a music in the park. We received 4 RFPs, and each were slightly different. And so staff really couldn't break down or choose one or prefer one over the other. So we decided to bring each option to y'all. Again, council has the ability to reject all the proposals if they so wish, or kind of request staff to amend each of the options differently. The first option was a company was proposing $21,875 to assist with an event, but that was only going to cover 10 hours. Anything over 10 hours was going to be $175 an hour. So that was the first proposal. And in their plan, they didn't have options for booth rentals if we were going to do that, porta potties, entertainment or electricity. They were basically requesting a $21,000 fee for 10 hours to assist in the setup and reconciliation of the account. Oops, excuse me. Option 2 was a $17,500 proposal to assist us with an event. They made it very clear in their proposal, though, that it was only $17,000 because we were a first-time customer, and if we chose to use them again the following year, it would go up by $20,000. So they did make that note in their proposal. Their structure was that the event budget would be about $68,000 for them to be able to put on a successful Music in the Park, but they were saying that the city could generate $31,000 in revenue if we sold tickets for $25. And then there was like a bracket. You could have a VIP section if you wanted to, and then sponsorships and beer sales. And the city could actually make money if we went with them and gave them a $68,000 budget, plus paid them the $17,500 to assist with the event. Option 3 was a special events coordinator to assist with the event for $5,500, and they would need a $27,000 budget. And basically what they would do is just assist with the logistics of the event, still working with staff. The options were very basic in this proposal. I don't know if they truly understand like everything that takes place in a city that we, overtime and porta potty, other things of that nature. Oops. And then option 4 was the most turnkey event. They were proposing $147,000 for the actual Music in the Park, but they had everything. I mean, that was turnkey. They had security, they had porta potties, they had everything you could possibly think of in an event. So they were the most turnkey option. They requested $22,500 to assist with the event. They also had some additional options, like if you wanted them to come up with an event identity, like the way Balcones Heights does the Jazz Festival, and every year it's got its own identity. That was an additional $8,500. If you wanted them to handle the print management and design, that was an additional $5,500. If you want to do an hourly rate with them, it was $95 an hour. If you wanted them to handle all the public relations, that was $12,000. And then social media management, like creating a Facebook and handling and managing that, was $52.50. So those are additional options on top of the $22,500. Having the music in the park is in line with our C statement. The special events coordinator placed $15,000 as a placeholder in FY20 budget, so we had no idea what the cost is. And again, this is up to council as to the size and the scale of the Music in the Park that you want. If you take a look at the 4th of July event and remove the fireworks in the parade section, and you just had the band and the booze, that would be Music in the Park. And so taking a look, at when we get all those numbers in for the 4th, we'll have a better idea of how much just the entertainment, the booth rental, the porta potties, the stage, the staff overtime. I'm sure the chief's probably going to want fencing or some sort of security measures there at the park if we do Music in the Park, is probably what you're looking at, and it's going to be over $15,000. And so recommendation from staff is we hold 2 major events already. We have the 4th of July. We put in $28,000 for Soapbox Derby. And so we're just recommending 2 major events. We also hold a lot of other small events like the Christmas tree lighting event, Grandparents' Day. Maybe there's a dual concept if y'all want to hold Soapbox Derby and maybe having some entertainment in the park. But then that $28,000 for Soapbox Derby is probably going to have to go up a little bit as far as the amount. It's probably going to be closer to what y'all spend on 4th of July. We're still waiting on those numbers for 4th, but we usually spend about, we're hitting about $90,000 in the expenses in regards to 4th of July. But Ashley will be presenting to y'all the second meeting in August what the actual cost is, including sponsorships. We just asked for sponsorships for the 4th of July from most of our businesses. I don't know how many of them would be willing to donate for Soapbox Derby and a Music in the Park, because we did get some sponsorships for the Soapbox Derby. So, again, staff recommends if y'all want to do one, maybe eliminate another. Maybe we don't do Soapbox Derby and y'all want to do Music in the Park, or maybe a combination of the two. You know,
Okay.
but again, it's
All right.
at City Council's discretion.
All right, very good. You know, I'm just thinking about when we had a 2-day jazz festival. When was that, 2014? It was $25,000, and it was a turnkey thing, and it was wonderful for Friday night and Saturday night. So now we're kind of like, wow, has times changed? And so that's what I'm thinking of. You know, I think thank you, Crystal, for your efforts. Really appreciate it. But I'm thinking that we can certainly maybe look at doing this. If we want to do this, look at it in-house, maybe coupling it with something else. But if we got somebody to donate their I've heard that there may be a jazz musician that would be willing to play here in Leon Valley, but he would raise money for a cause. Do you know what I'm saying? That was the kind of the quid pro quo. So I don't know, but I mean, there's lots of different options, but I don't really like any of the options that you presented, really.
You know, we opened the bids, and
exactly. So.
You know, we solicited Rhonda sent out the RFP to like 32 different vendors. We posted it on public purchasing as well. We contacted previous vendors that we had used in the past, and these are the 4 that we received.
And I remember one year when we had a December, it was rained out in October, and it was moved to December. We had it in the community conference center area. It was much smaller, more defined. It probably wouldn't be as expensive as far as fencing and stuff like that.
Correct. And so, I mean, again, if y'all want to do a smaller event, and then you risk the chance of us turning, if it does turn out larger, then there's a maximum capacity. We would have to turn people away from the event. So just, keeping that in mind. And, I don't know, jazz doesn't draw as big of a crowd typically. I mean, I know Marconi's Heights, I was here for the jazz festival. It was like a 2-day festival. One day seemed really good. The other day was like, there wasn't a whole lot of people there when we had the jazz festival here. And so, I think the reason for the jazz festival, the $22,000, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't included in that price of $22,000, and that's why things happened the way they did with that particular vendor, because overtime wasn't considered in that budget. Us purchasing the stuff for the event wasn't considered in that budget. So.
Yeah, I didn't know all the specifics. Yeah. I just knew I thought it was a fun time.
There's a lot of extras, I think, that people are unaware of when they come in, and they don't realize that we have to, get an electrician out to run electricity for the booths. We have to, have public works and police and, all the staff that's there.
Right. Well, I certainly respect your recommendation, but let me hear from our counselors and Counselor Martinez and our citizens as well. Thank you.
I personally agree with the mayor. I don't like any of the proposals. And a minimum we might investigate is maybe having a smaller band or something in conjunction with the Soapbox Derby.
That's what I was thinking.
I could see that, but no, I don't like any of these.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I want option 4 where we could spend $200,000. Just kidding for those.
Okay.
But I think something if we had something connected to Soapbox Derby, some kind of music that kids would like, that age group too. So.
Okay. All right.
So, whatever the discretion is of the council, we can look at the way the Soapbox Derby is going, or the way we envisioned it to be laid out was to have the strip of cars come down Poss Road, those of y'all that attended the Soapbox, and maybe having like 5 food booths along Poss Road.
At Evers, right?
I'm sorry, at Evers. Evers
yeah.
and Poss. To have the food booths, though, lined up on Poss
okay.
Road like we did at the last event, and maybe having like 2 or 3 porta potties there. For the Soapbox Derby, and that's why we estimated about $28,000 for that event to buy, the railings and the ramps
The
and all
bales of
the-
hay,
Yeah.
and
We're going to do a little bit different. We're not going to use barrels of hay this
You're
time.
not?
It's going to be PVC piping and cones.
Oh.
And then we'll own them forever after that.
Oh, okay. All right. Very
So
good.
there's some things that we're doing for the soapbox derby that we won't have continuous cost. And so it could be that we have more food booth vendors at like the Veterans Park area and have a band set up there, and then have the soapbox derby come along POS and try to navigate people from the soapbox derby to the Veterans Park area. I'd have to take a look at the numbers and come back to council as to like how much entertainment would be, and if we need fencing in that area, those added costs to increase the amount of the 28,000.
Well, maybe the 15,000 would cover it. It's
That-
already
that-
in
that
there.
very-
We just
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Martinez.
Thought of something. What about if we have a band, maybe have one, for lack of a better word, headliner, a band that plays for younger kids, but also go to Marshall, go to some of the schools, and they have bands, and see if they're just willing to play for, the heck of it. They a lot of places are desperate for a venue to show off.
We reach out all the time for various events to different bands. John Marshall's band is very well known, and they don't like to pick up side. They can't do the 4th because they're preparing for their national stuff. They do our Christmas tree lighting, but that's typically the only thing. But we can definitely reach out to the various schools or the various bands in the area as a
They're really
secondary
good.
band to see if they would like to come out for a minimum cost. Minimal cost.
I was thinking of football season, though, on
Yeah,
October 12th.
I mean,
so,
there's
yeah.
band competition
Yeah.
is during that time. You have
but anyway, if
football
you,
season, but
you could reach out now
yeah,
as
we'll
they come
just
back
ask.
to school.
Well, we're 3 months away, so whatever, we're already starting the logistics for soap, but we just got off the 4th. We're starting logistics for the
Sure.
soapbox to make so if this is a decision council wants to make, it has to be done fairly quickly.
Okay.
And so.
All right. Any other input on from Councilor Charles or Councilor Rodriguez?
I would just recommend that you check out schools, and perhaps we could find someone that would play minimally cost.
But is that kind of a general consensus of my colleagues to try to add on to the soapbox derby? Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing? Is that what y'all make it more lively?
But the people who do the soapbox derby have different ideas, I think. I don't think they're necessarily there for a band, so it would have to be for another purpose. They're pretty well focused on what that is. So I guess other people want to come out. Everybody likes to listen to music. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's necessarily that's the best time, but it may be.
Okay.
It
Councilor
seems like-
Bradshaw.
Sorry, it seems like the time of year might work well if you did the soapbox derby during the day and then a band, in the evening at the park or something. But my one concern with, the idea, well, obviously besides the bids were kind of out of line, but the music in the park, we had complaints, or I guess one complaint about how long the 4th of July thing went. The music ended at 10:30, and so usually bands, they want to go late. Concerts I go to, they don't start until 10
Yeah.
o'clock a lot of times. So I guess it depends on the genre of music and kind of how we set it up. But
Right.
I think this is something we need to kind of do more investigation on, or maybe table it for later.
Okay.
So I hear that y'all want to add a band to the soapbox derby. We can do a little bit of investigation and see. I mean, we're close. I don't know if I'll be able to land entertainment for this year, and it's something we can get ready and gear up for soapbox derby for next year and kind of combine the two. But we'll definitely make an effort to try to see if we can add music to the soapbox derby for this upcoming event and see how it goes.
Yeah, just.
What about mixing it with movies in the park?
What about mixing it with movies in the park? I don't know.
I
I don't know when the next movies in
We
the park.
put it on hold because Maribel was out, and we kind of were focusing on the 4th of July, and we're gearing up for soapbox derby, and so movies in the park is something staff has to sit down and discuss. But we definitely have it budgeted for next year, and we are going to do them. But it could be something that we do together. But again, once you start, the Movies in the Park generates about 30 people at the most, I think I've seen. And so when you go from 30 to, say, even 2,000 to 3,000 people in the park, security and traffic control and stuff becomes an issue. Yeah, so.
Okay. Not a simple answer here, but I think we want it, but we want it to work and meld and, yeah, so I don't know.
So
Can you
Maribel's-
can you just come back with some ideas at the next council
Maribel's
meeting,
going to
or-
bring back an update for the Soapbox Derby for the first week in August.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have some ideas for you on that one.
Okay,
If not,
let's
we'll
just do it that
we'll
way.
try next year.
All right, very good. Any other input from our citizens in our chamber before we move on? So I think you've got some direction, Crystal. Is that what I'm okay, you're good. All right, very good. Okay, well, thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, then we move to citizens to be heard. Agenda item number 9. Anyone like to address the council at the end of the meeting? All right. Then seeing no one, if there's no objection, we move to adjourn.